In today's video we'll be traveling on board of a Flixbus from The Hague in the Netherlands to Hamburg. However, this bus goes all the way to Bialystok in Poland, what is quite a long journey. It's not the first time that I'm on a Flixbus. Actually, the previous time was on the domestic route that we'll be covering now as well between The Hague and Amsterdam. But we go much further now. Basically, I had a cancellation voucher that I didn't want to left to waste. So yeah, a good reason to find this out. And from Hamburg on, I continue my journey by train. Join me on board of this Flixbus from The Hague. It goes all the way to Bialystok in Poland. I won't be taking it all the way there. It's not my bus yet, by the way. My bus will come in a bit. But for now, let's get this video on the road. And let's roll the intro. I start my journey at the railway station of the Hague Centraal in the Netherlands. This is the biggest terminal railway station of the Netherlands, and our bus started about 20 kilometers south from here in Rotterdam. The Hague is actually the only city in the Netherlands, well, actually used to be the only city in the Netherlands that has two main railway stations. Amsterdam has the same thing now as well. The international buses are not mentioned on the departure screens for the buses over here. What is a pity actually. If you want to support sustainable transportation, I think also mentioning these international buses a little bit more would make a lot of sense. Well, I promise you I will feature the Hague Central railway station in a future trip report where I'll be taking a train to Enschede from here. That also has most connection on international trains from The Hague, and especially if you move towards Germany. The international buses do depart at the back of the bus station. There's a Flixbus standing there already, so it's easy to find. Well, I do have many mixed feelings about featuring a bus on this video. However, a fact is, for buses, you can serve quite a lot of destinations with a relatively low demand. Our bus for today has a capacity of 69 passengers, but if you have a bigger bus, a double-deck bus I looked up, you can have a capacity of around 97 passengers. Since the bus has no dining car, of course, there is a toilet, but I don't know how clean it is, if it's working at all. I just went to the toilet, bought my lunch, and also just had my breakfast at the station. This is a home game for me. Maybe I'll show a little bit more of the station later on. Anyway, for now let's head to the bus, and that's right over there. Well, apart from Flixbus, this station is being served by more long-distance bus companies, and some of them are, as far as I know at least, much more comfortable than Flixbus, and I'm especially talking about RegioJet. I mean, Flixbus is very dominant on this market for international bus lines, but there are just more companies. Once again, RegioJet is also calling here, but you also find buses of Sinbad and BlaBlaCar. By the way, both RegioJet and Flixbus are also companies that started as a bus company, but do have trains as well. RegioJet more than Flixbus, what is called Flixtrain by the way. On the Flixbus app, I could basically track my bus and see if it will be more or less on time. And it arrived more or less on time at the railway station of The Hague, well, at the international bus station part. In a way, I think it would be nice if there would be some more flair to the international bus station here in The Hague. But also a fact is, The Hague is, in terms of international buses, not the most important station in the Netherlands. But well, just give it a little bit more body. I think that would be very nice. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comments. In Germany I noticed that most international bus stations were much nicer. Anyway, this here was our bus coming in. Today's journey will be on board of a Irizar bus. This is a Spanish-made bus, and it's basically a regular touring car. Just as you can expect of long-distance buses, below the bus you find big storage space for luggage, and smaller items can be taken on board with you. The bus driver will scan your ticket and basically you're good to go. The whole process is basically pretty straightforward. While I was waiting here on the bus, I was also talking with someone else who was going to Bremen. And the reason why he took the bus and didn't choose for the train is easy, because he had a direct bus from The Hague to Bremen. But if he would travel by train, he needed to change at least twice. I'll let you know at the end of the video how I would feel about this topic on my specific journey. You do get an assigned seat on board of Flixbus, and someone else was sitting in my seat. Well, after kindly kicking him off my seat, the bus was already departing before I knew it. Well, when it comes to taking the seat, just go to your assigned seat. Don't sit somewhere else, because some people did this during this journey, and because some people did this at the beginning, it was a mess for the rest of the journey for some seats. Our bus started in Rotterdam, and Hague was the first stop. After this, we moved straight to Amsterdam Sloterdijk, what is basically the main station for international and long-distance buses in the Netherlands and also Amsterdam. As a matter of fact, I made a trip report in the past from Amsterdam Sloterdijk to The Hague. That bus went to Brussels as a final destination, what is a way shorter distance than this bus over here. And speaking of the total distance and the route for today's bus, let's take a close look on the route for today's journey. And I'm not talking about the section that I'll be taking, but for the entire journey of this bus. The bus started in Rotterdam, will go via The Hague, Amsterdam, to Groningen, what is the last stop in the Netherlands. From there on we go to Oldenburg, make a very small stop where only one person went off, and we go to Bremen. From Bremen we move on to Hamburg, and from Hamburg I really noticed a big shift in terms of passengers. We go via the north coast of Germany to Poland. Well, I'm not gonna mention all the towns from here on, but as you can see, this is a rather long journey. As a matter of fact, I think I should speed this a little bit up. The total travel time for the bus, if you take it from Rotterdam to Bialystok, will be a whopping 28 hours. Well, in general it's a budget-friendly option, but it's not my preferred choice. Anyway, when we departed from The Hague, things were looking pretty good. It went smooth along the highway. So I thought. A huge traffic jam caused an enormous delay, and this basically impacted the rest of the entire journey. At least for my journey, but I think basically for the entire journey of this specific trip. And somehow I would have expected they would take a little bit more of these types of delays in consideration, even though this was a rather long delay. I have to add up to this. When I made this journey, it was during an extreme heat wave, so I can imagine people were not very focused on the road. And as soon as there's a beer truck involved in an accident as well, you know that drinking and driving don't go hand in hand together. And before especially American people are commenting on my videos that your traffic safety is not good in the Netherlands, well, statistically the Netherlands is one of the safest countries to drive in. And I'm really not pro cars, but honestly I have to admit that the Dutch highways are pretty good and decent. Not only the highways, but in general the roads are pretty good and decent. Even though, as a Dutchman, I always have something to complain, of course. And the same thing counts for the Dutch railway system. The trains are frequent, they go to many places, and, well, believe it or not, they're actually more affordable than you might think. But you just need to know the little tricks. If you just buy full fare tickets for trains in the Netherlands, yeah, they can be relatively pricey. So I can also imagine people take these Flixbuses, who are not known with the Dutch train system at least, for domestic journeys within the Netherlands. Basically, at the moment the bus arrived in Amsterdam, most people went out and a lot of new people joined us. So the section between Rotterdam and Amsterdam was mainly being used for people for domestic journeys. Well, between Rotterdam and Amsterdam, this bus will take 1 hour and 15 minutes and you will not even be in the city center of Amsterdam. Well, if you take the train, at least the high-speed train, this will be 48 minutes. And since you need to count, let's say, another 15 minutes to go to the city center from Amsterdam Sloterdijk, let's say the bus takes at least twice as long. But the bus is in general pretty affordable, I have to admit this as well. Since at this moment it wasn't too busy in the bus yet, I thought it's about time to check out the toilets. I mean, no train tour is complete without showing the toilets, and the same thing counts for the bus, of course. And these toilets, they are super tiny. But, well, at least there's running water. But toilet paper was missing. Within the luggage racks above the toilets, within the open compartment, I noticed some toilet paper though, so I think if you need it you can just find it. And the toilet itself, well, it's not a pleasant toilet where I like to do my business, but if you have to go, you have to go. Maybe it's also a good strategy because people try to hold it as long as possible on board of these buses. However, during my 8-hour long journey, I also needed to go, of course, but I hold it up until the end of the journey as much as possible at least. Here, our bus is arriving at the bus station of Amsterdam Sloterdijk. This is the central bus station of Amsterdam, and it's not really close to the city center, it's pretty close to the highway though. And in a way this makes sense. You have good public transportation to the city center and you're close to the highway as well. Amsterdam Sloterdijk is a true intermodal transport hub. In the past, buses, at least the international buses, when it was still all Eurolines, departed from Amsterdam Amstel railway station. However, before we get there, let me give you a seat tour of my seat. The amount of leg room is okay as long as the passenger in front of me doesn't recline the seat. You find a small footrest and a magazine rack. Seats can be reclined a little bit and there's one power plug per 2 seats. You can also widen the seats a little bit and you find curtains that block out some sunlight. You find a reading light and you find the air conditioning you can point towards you or, well, put away from you. Free Wi-Fi is available, but I didn't test it out. About tickets and seat selection, I'll get back to that a little bit later on, but first let's review Amsterdam Sloterdijk railway and bus station, because this is the biggest international bus station in the Netherlands and I think it's worth reviewing this. City buses do depart from the opposite end of the railway station from where you find the international buses. Over there you also find a tram stop. And we're in the Netherlands after all, so obviously you find lots of places to park your bike all over the railway station. But what makes this pretty cool actually is a hostel that is located right next to the railway station, and this is basically an old sleeping trains. I really like this. When I was here it was raining a little bit, what was very much needed because we had a long period of, well, hot temperatures and little to no rain. I sneaked in a little bit over here as well, and well, this is just pretty cool actually. You still have the experience of being on a train, but the train isn't moving. I guess if I'm on a sleeper train I prefer a moving one because then you also have some grey sounds. I think other people are pretty easy to hear within this train. I checked out the shower and this is pretty spacious, not like a train at all. Anyway, when I recorded this part of the video, I took Trainviking Jr. with me. And Trainviking Jr. was basically sleeping in the push car, at least for this section of the video. So, at one hand I was filming and the other hand, well, pushing my baby around. Even though we're not in the city center of Amsterdam, you do find some places where you can buy food and drinks as well, like for example the breakfast club, if you don't like the breakfast at the hostel for example. But I think this is a bit pricier. And even when I was here in the late afternoon, a lot of people were still having, I guess, breakfast in the breakfast club. What else? I hope you like this video so far, or what of this bus. If you do so, or if it's a helpful video to you, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. If you have questions, feedback, comments, or even if you just want to say hello, feel free to leave a comment, of course. And nowadays you also find these hype buttons below the video, mainly if you watch this on your mobile phone. I also really appreciate it if you can click over there. If you'd like to see more trip reports, this channel is mainly focusing on long distance and international traveling on a more sustainable way of transportation. But this is definitely both long distance and international. But mainly I focus on trains. It's all in the name of this channel. Anyway, if you'd like to see more, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. And for now, let's continue with this video. And let's continue reviewing Amsterdam Sloterdijk railway and bus station. I just came up over here, and this is basically at the back of the railway station. However, most facilities are located inside the railway station. Since there's no dining car whatsoever on Flixbus, and rest stops are not that common, this also really depends on the route you take and where you're traveling. Buying some stuff here before your journey might be a very good idea, and thank goodness you can do that over here. From and to the railway tracks you will find access gates. You will find 2 railway tracks right above me, and right below me you will find 6 of them. If you want to travel from and to the city center, the train is the best way to go to, but you will also find the metro here. 2 railroad tracks or located actually in a different building. Basically, this could also be considered as a different station, and that is located at the other end of the square at the front of the railway station. If I zoom in over here, it's on the very end. It's about a 3 to 4 minute walk from the other railway station building. And even though there's not that much around here, mainly office spaces, due to the hub location of Amsterdam Sloterdijk, around here you find more and more hotels and also, well, in general more facilities. The OV bike, what is the bike sharing program of the Dutch state-owned railway company NS, can also be found here, so it's a good way to get around from here. You will find it in the guarded parking garage for bikes. Another good way to get around by bike is Donkey Republic, what you will find in lots of places in Europe, and I just really like Donkey Republic. It's quite affordable as well. Apart from that, especially in and around Amsterdam, you find lots of private bike rental companies. When I was still dating with my wife, she lived near here, so I've been here a lot. However, most importantly, in the railway station building, you do find quite some places where you can buy some food, including the Albert Heijn to go, what is a convenience store here on the right. It's a kind of convenience store / supermarket. Access from and to the metro of Amsterdam can be found at the back of the railway station. You'll find these access gates over here, you basically can't miss it. However, for now we really focus on the bus area of Amsterdam Sloterdijk railway station. Since I was having Trainviking Junior with me in the push car, I took the elevator over here, and basically this is the way to go to the bus station. It has also been marked within the railway station, even though it's not marked that great. However, especially the bright green buses of Flixbus, you already see them from miles ahead, and you basically can't miss it. Basically, the bus station is at the parking lot of Amsterdam Sloterdijk railway station. And to be honest, this is the bus station for international buses in the Netherlands. I think it's just really disappointing. I understand many bigger cities will not have fancy bus stations. I mean, it's not that common in the Netherlands yet to travel along long distance buses. Within Germany though, I found quite interesting and nice bus stations at quite a lot of towns actually. Even though within the railway station you find some toilets, there are some automated toilets over here as well that didn't look too clean from the outside. Also, the taxi stand of Amsterdam Sloterdijk railway station is located here at the back. Well, once again, Flixbus is not the only company that is operating their buses from and to here, but they're by far the biggest company. You also find Regiojet, Sinbad, BlaBlaCar and Twiliner. And Flixbus also had a small office. They were mentioning Greyhound tickets. I don't know since when Greyhound is in Europe, but hey, whatever. Right opposite from the kind of ticket office, you do find some vending machines, even a vending machine for bus tickets, some snacks and drinks, where you can charge your phone, and another one for drinks, and of course the vending machines for if you park your car over here. Within the small ticket office, I noticed another vending machine, and when I zoomed in a bit, I even noticed that they are selling Flixbus merchandises over here. What is a bit confusing though, even though it's not small here, but it's also not super big, you will find several zones for the buses, basically 2 zones. So please do mind what your ticket is telling you about where you have to board the buses. Zone 1 is located at this end, so closest to the railway station itself, where Zone 2 is at the other end of the parking lot. Once again, I think this bus station should be way nicer and they should invest in this. Having different bays, having departure screens for all bus companies, because right now you will only find this for Flixbus at the Flixbus office. And also have some indoor waiting areas would be very nice, I guess. Oh, and something I haven't mentioned yet, lockers can be found within the railway station, but apparently also right next to the bus station, next to the office. For now, let's go back to the moment when I was traveling on board with this bus. And here I'm arriving at the bus station of Amsterdam Sloterdijk. I think there were about 5 other passengers, and me of course, that stayed on the bus, but most passengers were new from this moment on. And because Amsterdam Sloterdijk is close to the highway, it didn't take long before we were back on the highway again. The next station is still within the Netherlands, but will be Groningen, what is around 190 kilometers away from here. and about a 2-hour drive. Here, the bus is arriving in Groningen, in the northeast of the Netherlands. At the moment I was here, the new bus station was just not opened yet, but honestly I don't know if Flixbus will stay with the current location or if they will move their buses also to the new bus station that is located at the back of the railway station. After a brief stop, we were still delayed. We moved on to our next stop, what is in Oldenburg, Germany. Well, Germany is having occasionally border controls. Basically they say they have it everywhere, but I've crossed the border plenty of times by regional buses and trains where I didn't have any border check at all. Maybe I should make a dedicated video about this, where you can have the easiest way to go into Germany without border check. Anyway, if you're traveling on board of a Flixbus, you will definitely be picked out. Buses, and then especially Flixbus, are being known for a cheap way to travel around in Europe. So this is why these buses are being picked out more often than other modes of transportation, even if you're traveling to other countries than Germany. The buses do have a cheap image, partially this is true. However, the audience on board of the bus is very mixed, I found out. Also, there are different bus companies and some of them are not cheap and low budget at all. And then with this part of Europe, I mainly talk about Twiliner. What is just a very fancy night bus between the Netherlands and Switzerland, and also between Switzerland and Spain. For my specific journey, I think the train would have been a cheaper option as well. I'll get back to how I booked my ticket and how much I paid later on. The first stop in Germany is Oldenburg, a medium-sized town where there is a special bay within the bus station of the railway station for the long-distance buses. After a short stop, picking up some passengers, dropping off some passengers, we went back to the highway again, moving towards Bremen with a very small stop in between. Here the bus is arriving in Bremen, and here the bus station is located right next to the main railway station. And this bus station is really nice, to be honest. Special bays, covered area. Well, I didn't check out other facilities because I stayed within the bus. However, I like to see this a bit more for long distance and international bus stations within the Netherlands as well, and then especially Amsterdam. Because this bus station is located a little bit more in the city center, we also had to deal with more traffic. By the way, I haven't mentioned yet, but you're obligated to wear a seatbelt on board of these buses. Traveling with kids on long distance buses, well, the rules might be very different per bus company. Basically for Flixbus you need to bring your own car seat. Yeah, that's not traveling light at all. So if you're traveling with young kids, I really don't prefer the bus. Also in terms of accessibility, so people traveling in a wheelchair, I don't think that these buses are a good alternative. However, for those traveling by bike, on quite a lot of routes for Flixbus, you are able to take your bike. And that with a direct connection, I mean that's pretty comfortable. Especially because taking a bike on board of a train, especially if you travel international, can be a lot of hassle. Because you have different train tickets and also the information about taking your bike on the train, if it's allowed or not, is not always listed well in the international railway timetable. As we are on the highway from Bremen to Hamburg, let me tell you something about my ticket and why I also think that my ticket was not as cheap as it could have been. I've booked this bus ride basically because I had a cancellation voucher of Flix train. And I don't want to let this money go to waste. Initially, I've booked a bus ticket from Amsterdam to Hamburg because I didn't know that this bus would also call in The Hague. I only found that out later. For that journey, I've paid €50.96. And later on, when I found out that this bus also calls in The Hague, I booked a separate ticket from The Hague to Amsterdam on the same bus for €9.60. For both of these journeys, I selected a seat on the map because they give you the option to do so. I didn't select the cheapest seat, a little bit more in the front, and I also blocked the seat next to me. This also adds up to the total price. Yeah, so let it be no surprise that this was definitely not the cheapest option at the time I've booked this. However, about 20 days before my departure, I received an email that some things on my journey have changed. Well, I didn't notice at first, and I noticed that I suddenly only have one seat. So they cancelled the seat right next to me where I paid for, and for that amount they gave me a gift voucher that I need to use within 1 year time. I didn't ask for this, and of course I complained about this at the customer care and they refunded this money. And for this story, it's also important to tell you that ticket prices are based on demand. So at the moment a bus is pretty fully booked, the ticket prices will go up. However, I still wanted to have 2 seats to myself. They gave me this option and I think it's more relaxed to travel like this, especially if I'm filming. So yeah, I just rebooked my bus ticket for the entire journey. Basically ending up with 2 other cancellation vouchers. And if you book your bus ticket, you can only use one at the same time. Even though they are mentioning on their website that a customer care can merge these vouchers as well. But since I wanted to book the new ticket straight away, I didn't want to wait for that. The total price for the 2 bus tickets from The Hague to Amsterdam and Amsterdam to Hamburg was €60.12. While the new bus ticket for the entire journey on exactly the same seats costed me €78.96. So basically I've paid €18.84 extra. Well, you can say a lot about Flixbus whatever you want, that it's a budget-friendly option, but this way they just basically rip me off. And also about the passengers. In general, most passengers were nice people, I talked with some of them. However, from Bremen on, someone came sitting next to me. Because I booked 2 seats, I just basically had my bag over there. And he suggested me to put the bag on my lap. Well, I didn't protest in any way, so I shouldn't complain about this actually. However, I think it just makes a lot of sense if everybody just moves to their assigned seat. But for the experience, I thought, like, okay, why not? The last section of the journey, I have a seatmate. And if you have some issues by someone sitting next to you in my situation, I can just ask the bus driver and tell him like, hey, I've booked these 2 seats for myself, I paid for it, and probably he will be sent away. Something else you really need to take in consideration for Flixbus, there are not a lot of extra stops apart from the planned stops where the bus makes a call. We had 2 drivers and they just, change every now and then because they have a certain drive time they can have. Maybe along the way they will change drivers from Poland. I don't know exactly how this works because this is a rather long journey. But just make sure you have enough food and drinks with you. And this is actually also why I think it's quite important to include Amsterdam Sloterdijk railway station in this video. Over here, the bus is arriving at the bus station of Hamburg, from where on I left. However, this bus station is basically a station on its own. It's close to Hamburg main railway station, but over here you find quite a lot of facilities and shops as well. And apart from that, you find buses to all over Europe from and to here. Within the main building, I even noticed a counter of Flixbus. Well, I think this is nothing special in this situation, But something else I noticed over here were public showers. Well, obviously you need to pay for this, but this is great, especially before or after a long journey. Here we are at Hamburg. The bus continues all the way to Bialystok though, this one here, and I got out over here. I don't go all the way there, thank goodness. Do I like the bus? I have very mixed feelings. On one hand I really like it. What is a fact? Buses offer more direct connections, and a lot of people like this. For me, I still prefer the train, but it is a direct connection from The Hague, and not only to Hamburg but to many other places as well. And well, it's a bit slower, but it's also cheaper in most situations than the train. That's not always the case, by the way. Probably already told you a little bit about that in this video. Anyway, that's it for now. Once again, thank you for watching. I hope you liked it, like I already said in the video. If you did so or it has been helpful to you, please give me a thumbs up. Questions, feedback, comments, or if you want to say hello, feel free to leave a comment. And if you like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, the main focus for this channel is long distance and or international traveling, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. Before we really end up this video, one very last thing. Thank you for watching. Related videos can be found in the description of this video, including a link to Trainline where you can also book these bus tickets. Something else you find in the description of this video are links to related videos and a link to a map where you can find all videos as well, but then on a map. And I'm seriously have my doubts if I should add the line for this, but